cool. Nice.
Okay, so
can I give you a copy of the book?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Actually, what I was hoping, if you don't mind, is I'm just wondering your sort of response to the. I don't want to build it up too much, but to the object as a book, as an artist's book.
So do you want my immediate response?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind, that'd be really useful for me to just sort of understand what you don't. I mean, if you hate it, it's also fine. Just tell me that you think it's awful.
I think I like the fact it's unintelligible.
Yep. Okay.
Like some of the writing.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, a lot of people that say that.
And then what you try and do is start picking out certain words, and in order to make sense of it, to have a rhythm throughout. There's nothing on the front, so that's. But I do like the cover.
It's the same one.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I really like the cover, actually, because at first I thought, I have got it the wrong way round, but actually it's that sort of. There's no reference or anything to the front of what you're going to open up. Yeah. I think my initial thoughts are I would like there to be more. Because I like the... I'm interested in the rhythm of the writing.
That's nice.
And making something myself. And the... starkness. It's very stark on the white pages, and then here... I remember seeing the PDF of it, and even on print, it looks like, neon.
Yeah,
neon
on the screen,
lights.
It's a bit more.
That's what. And even here, it still has that resonance of neon lights, which then, and it's against black, so it has that connotations of a kind of excuse me, a kind of excitement in the nighttime. Yeah, okay. You know, when you see neon lights in the nighttime, it suggests something, a kind of nighttime activity that's going on, something that's quite underground. Whereas this is much starker.
Yeah, I was a bit actually. I had and I'll let you carry on. Thanks. Good.
But I'm trying to work out who you're writing to. Maybe it's because of how that it's handwriting. Yep. Is it part of a letter to somebody? It's not in terms of word art that I've seen where it's very much about a statement. It's quite short. It's quite it's a comment on something, but it's even from sort of Jenny Holzer to even Tracy Eamon, who's used a similar kind of writing. It's still quite short. There's full-length texts where there's lots of writing, but it then becomes a statement in itself. The whole piece of work, he's got a show on at the moment. It's Glenn Ligon.
I know.
And I saw his work years and years ago. And also Kerry James Marshall as well, who does the big stamps. I don't know if you've seen it. He's on at the
What's the name?
Camden Art Centre. Oh, hang on a minute. No, David Zwermer Gallery.
Yeah.
Glenn Lignan is on at the Camden Art Centre. Kerry James Marshall, he is on at the David Zwermer Gallery, and he actually looks after Barack Obama's art collection,
Right.
which is quite an interesting fact actually. When I spoke to the gallery owners, and he does these works which is like a big massive stamp and there's just a word across it. So, but this has a different resonance through to it, and it's about, I don't know if your intention was for the viewer to decipher.
So not on what I've actually. Well, could I ask just before I tell you about it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
If you were to take anything away from this book now, would there be an impression? I mean, I don't mean like that you like it or you don't like it, but as an idea contained within the work or not.
I think so I'm trying to be quite objective, but I'm going to be subjective. There's a kind of melancholy, but it may be to do that it's poetic, or I'm picking up bits of words. So, there's this might be black or back here, and then there's you, and then it's the system, which is quite, tough. And then, thanks, maybe all you, belonging. Yeah. And then we have kindly, kindly, kindly. So there's a kind of, maybe a kind of yearning, but that may be me reading
no, it's fine.
into it. So that's a completely subjective response.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, great, thanks.
So that's what I would
that's cool.
would take away from it, because the writing is personal to you. That's what I think. It's not something that can be replicated. Yeah. Which in a lot of other word art, it has that kind of commercial production. Yeah. And this is different.
Yeah, no. I think that's been maybe my problem with a number of people who've looked at it is, it's my problem with the work. This is like from my job over the summer as a waiter. It was like one of those 0-hour contracts. Right. So, and actually the managers there were not pleasant particularly. So I was like, my sort of practice focus is this sort of like having this positive mentality of sort of extracting something good out of an environment, whatever that environment might be that I'm inhabiting at the time. So these were like within this. I suppose in a sense, it's just like a presentation of sort of a stressful environment, really, and interaction. That's quite rude, isn't it? So that's how I was thinking at the time. And it's just as. And these were this. So and then in terms of sort of like. When you smile at someone to project a value of sort of like sort of a value which you both share, which may not otherwise be recognised. Mm-hmm. So actually, I've learned my S's are very difficult to read, but this is like bucking the system, smiling. So you've both been in this difficult work environment, but you to like acknowledge each other's sort of human presence and value through that process. In a way, I think this is what I've beginning to come to understand. Perhaps is that. These are all symbolic gestures, really. Like so all the chefs, like and kitchen porters, like thanked me one night, and I felt like I belonged. So thanks, belonging. And just like a reference, I wrote some sort of free-verse poetic sort of stuff, which all began with these. I think it's called anaphora. It's sort of like the repetition of the same word in similar verses. And I just rather than putting, I was looking to condense my word art into sort of similar landscapes. So I just used the word kindly, which is in a sense, if you help someone, it's a kind of gesture.
Yes.
Yeah, I've had a criticism group, Q Art, with this, and people were just really, I think they were taken by the visual element of the negative landscape.
Yes.
And the positive aspect, which is the point of my art, was sort of like lost. It's not, no one asked a question about it, no one spoke about it, which it doesn't bother me, it's great to sort of understand that.
No one spoke about what?
The sort of, the white landscapes, the sort of like, the ones which contain the symbolic sort of gestures. So actually, as a result of that, I did these. Can I show you this?
Absolutely, of course.
I'd already had these printed because I had a problem with the book in Watford being printed. It was like all the machines broke up when I was giving a talk.
Okay.
At least I got to get some images to talk about.
Yeah, wow.
So I had these images printed, and then I actually spoke to someone called Martin Firrell, who's like a public art basically. And in 1998, he'd done some postcards. And I'd already thought of sending these out as postcards.
Yes.
And I was like, you know what, I'm going to do that, because it's sort of like, I really feel like that negative landscape, even if it can be understood, is really framing them and contextualising them way too heavily. And I was quite intrigued, even before I sent these out, was that I felt, actually, well, maybe I could ask what, rather than me saying what I felt, can I just ask you, if you were to, now you can, hopefully you know that's smiling, and that's, thanks, see you belong. If you were to receive that as a postcard, so this came through the post, on the back it went, hope you enjoy my artist's postcard. If you've enjoyed the image, please drop me an email. There's my email image. And they were just posted randomly to people in my area by hand. And I'm just wondering, if you were to receive something like that through the post, what might you think, or how might you respond?
They don't. They don't. It may be because of the surface or whatever, but it isn't. There's something slightly lacking, if you see what I mean. It's something a little bit, because it looks like a postcard.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So it therefore looks. That may be what you want, that you just want it to look like a postcard and you might have something on the back. But it starts to lose its resonance a little bit. Yeah, because a postcard is like a common, value. It's kind of, people know what postcards are, and they by the shape and the size and the paper. Yeah. It's familiar. Yeah. And what you're doing is not familiar. It's not. It's within, in terms of writing as a landscape, but also kind of it's about, because there's there's three things. There's the situation. Yeah. And then you're mediating it through your words. Yeah. If you see what I mean. So then there's also the act here. Yeah. So there's the actual act of doing it. Yeah. So you may even just want to stop here, and then there is the bookmaking and the product. Yeah.
So this is the point where I recognise a gesture.
Yeah, so it's the act of that's where you were as a waiter or whatever. It could be anything. You could.
Anyway, it could be on holiday,
anything could happen to you today. The rain comes down or whatever, and then you're in the act of kind of performing it or whatever. And you think, well, okay, well, how am I going to mediate that in what kind of way? Yeah. And then how is it then produced? And it may stop at number 2, it may stop at number 3. Yeah. So I think the thing is that I mean, don't get me wrong, I like postcards, and they're easy to produce, and they're a way of just what's the word? Distributing them really quickly to loads and loads of people. I think the thing is that
you can say it because it's a project in development.
Yeah.
So it's actually your comments. If you don't like it, it's great.
No. I think the thing is you need to think. Okay, you've got this product. Is why do you want to send it out to loads of people?
Yeah.
Or have you picked particular people to send it out to?
Yeah.
Does it work as a postcard?
Yeah.
As a kind of landscape, is it worth doing it where it's simply a digital image?
Yeah.
And it just resonates on the screen, because then you have the light through light.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you saw what I mean,
Yeah.
and then you have that kind of landscape. Or does it work within video art?
Yeah.
Or does it work simply as a painting?
Yeah.
Or do you combine those two kind of together?
Yeah.
Or if you do want to send it out to people, it's like, well, is this the right size for it? It's certainly the right, it couldn't really be portraits, but what if it was like this way and then you just had the 3 words in there? Do you see what I mean? So it was like, it's like that.
Yeah.
But then you just had it like that.
I see what you mean, yeah.
So, because then it takes on, if you're looking at your words across a landscape, it then takes on a kind of poetry, a kind of romanticism.
Within this framework.
Yeah, I think so. Or just kind of playing about with those frameworks. I do like it that it's your writing.
Yeah.
I think the thing is because it then tracks back to you, and it tracks back to a kind of personal experience, something quite concrete, and then it's not.
I like this idea.
It's not like sort of what's her name?
Bob Kruger.
Yeah, Barbara Kruger, where it's by here, from what I remember, kind of thing, which is a different thing altogether, and she's kind of slightly distanced herself through the photo montage, and because it's a comment on the state of society, so it's not trackable back to her, which is not your work. I think there's nothing wrong with doing something that is quite limited in its edition and thinking about different ways of how you want your work to operate. I think to come out, which is really resonates with this, the original idea and so forth. Okay, you tell me what you was going to say.
Well, actually, first, I like this idea, but I was interested in just what you said there. Because I don't really want to make like a sort of like a critique of 0-hour contracts and capitalism. And actually, what I am doing, which is very correct what you were saying there, is like I'm in this environment, and I'm like I knew I was doing this anyway, but trying to extract something optimistic out of it. And it doesn't matter what environment I'm in.
Yes, absolutely.
I could be, I don't know, struggling to get home at night or something, or just whatever, get healthcare access or whatever. It could just be, it could be anything. Yeah. So I'm quite, I think that's sort of maybe, and the fact that it's handwritten, and the fact it's not a Jenny Kruger, Barbara Kruger.
Yeah.
Sort of, I haven't decided to make a comment on capitalism and advertising. It's not the central focus of my sort of practice. So that's intriguing for me.
Absolutely. Because I don't think it is that, and I think with this, it becomes a little bit too throwaway.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're going to do this, then you may as well just print your own newspapers and do the same thing that people kind of keep and then they throw away or whatever. And you can go down that line, if you see what I mean. Yeah. But I think it's.
No, that's cool. Now, so when I set out on the project, I wanted to make a book because I didn't have studio access, so I was confused. I've made books before, and this was actually what committed me to making a book. So I saw this as a mini series of like discourses of negative to positive and abstraction, which I'm happy with, but people have sort of ignored the positive aspects of the point of the work a little bit. But I was always going to, prior to that, I was always going to scale it up. The Ed Ruscha 26 gasoline stations.
Yes.
It was always my idea that I'd use this medium as a distribution tool.
Yes.
Just and an object knocking around the world, and then I'd bring it back into the studio. I was talking to this girl yesterday, and she really liked the postcard aspect, but I've been mulling over it because it was just an experiment rather than a massive commitment to an object. But and I was like, she was trying to push this sort of public billboard sort of approach, and I was like, look, I'm not making overtly political art.
Yes.
So it's actually quite a personal, reflective position for me anyway.
Yeah.
And so I was veering toward, and also I was just like, I don't really want to I don't want to make throwaway postcards.
Yeah. Yes.
So I was coming back, to the sort of, is what I normally do. What I've done for the last year anyway is quite large scale silk screen prints. So this would be onto an A1 silk screen print.
Yes.
Not with a white background, probably with a grey background to offset the tone of the colours.
Yeah.
You reckon that's going?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think the thing is that it's that. I just thought, God, if I received that, okay, it'd be nice for a day or whatever, but then I'd just put it on the side.
Yeah.
And your work doesn't deserve that. It's not the right format. Whereas I think the thing is also within the process of a silk screen print. There's the paint upon the paper, and it has a kind of surface.
Yeah.
So it goes into... So this thing here, although you told me it came from your waiter, you're right, it could stem from anything.
Yeah.
It could stem from sort of you maybe going to a football match and you're going with a friend and you're not really feeling... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's that thing which then starts to become a slightly universal dislocation.
Yeah.
From belonging kind of thing, and then a kind of yearning, then that gets satisfied, and it's almost like does the unbelonging get washed away through the act of kindness? All of those kinds of things, if you see what I mean, and that doesn't resonate within this format.
I agree. And actually, fair enough, the scaling for me, because I've scaled my handwriting before, just scanned it and thrown it up as a large TIFF thing, and it takes on a really nice gestural sort of element.
Yes.
And I was explaining this to someone a few days ago, but it's actually this note, I've got into this idea of the symbolic action, and the word is something which does something because it has an attitude. And actually, for me, the once it's scaled, that gestural mark, because these become really sculptural once they're scaled. All these sort of it's difficult to see here, but these types of gradations take on a three-dimensional sort of.
Absolutely.
And that itself signifies the attitude, gives it some energy.
Absolutely. So this is what I'm going to do. Just you sit there.
Okay.
You sit there. So this is all part of it. Because it's really exciting. I find it really, really exciting. So,
thanks for your...
you put that there. Okay, so...
Can I just make a couple? Oh, no, go for it.
Yeah.
Actually, the other thing I was
So write for me.
Okay. What, anything?
Yeah. Write for me.
In large or small?
Up to you.
Okay. Let's try.
Large.
You want it large?
Yeah.
Okay.
Large. I want to see the gesture.
Okay, right, okay.
I want to see the gesture.
Yeah.
Don't think about it. Just...
Well, actually, funny if I have a performance element to my pen on the page,
Okay.
so I would naturally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to see.
Yeah.
I think that's what I wanted to see. So that performative element. So there's this here. Yeah. It's the act and the performance.
Yeah. So you include that within.
Yeah, but I think the thing is that going back to where here we are, the postcards here. Going back to these things here. I'm glad you went along this path, because you needed to go along this path to see if it will work, because actually it could work. Yeah. It may not.
I mean, white is the wrong background, I think.
I think the thing is, it's worth, if you can, just if you can, just trying a few things on slightly different backgrounds. You don't necessarily maybe have to print them, but just maybe just seeing what works on different papers and things like that. But I think it contains it
better, gives it a frame.
It does, and I don't know if.
No, this was not what I want.
Yeah.
I had this grey background, and I don't normally work heavily in digital processes, but I had to because I had no studio space, just a computer. So this is all handwritten, it's scanned, and then I had to work with it. And I wanted a grey background as a complement to the black.
Yeah.
And it just, the letters just pushed out much more stronger.
Absolutely.
It had a frame, but I couldn't use the feathering technique with the magic wand to get rid of the white. And I had a deadline, and I was like, I can't make this project happen if I'm going to do that. And I'd already spent like 3 weeks learning how to use InDesign. So I was like, okay, this is. I mean, it worked. I think it works.
Yes,
it's fine.
yeah.
But I
absolutely.
knew there was a better way, and I would still do that. You know, those sort of like. I'm actually thinking of doing. Could be all in black and have. If you had like a red wash, these letters are all words are all black, and then you had like a red wash which faded into the middle.
Yes.
For that one, and I think all of this would be black, but just pure red behind.
Yeah.
And this one would perhaps be a faded red wash going down to red with everything.
Absolutely.
I haven't worked it out.
Yeah,
but just some sort of like.
I would absolutely
ground giving it.
I would absolutely try it, and then something like that. I would keep everything you've got on paper and scan it in if you can. Yeah. Just get onto a scanner at college or in one of the libraries, and then start switching the backgrounds and things like that. Almost go a little bit more lo-fi. Yeah. If you see what I mean, but also try things like, I mean, in terms of, in terms of you can do things.
I would like cardboard and a pen.
And you can do things on, like, slides, like on a slide projector where you're just writing it on here and then projecting it. Those kinds of things, I think it's really worth exploring this, because it has so much grit and meat to it. It's just how it's going to come out in the product in the end. I think as you said, the performative element is really worth exploring, because it reminds me of what's her name, Anna Dement. Is that her name? She was at the Hayward recently, and she does a mixture of things. She does performance, sculpture and so forth. But she did this thing where she dipped her arms in oxblood and just went like that on the paper, and that was the performance. So that gesture, if you saw what I mean, was just enough. So even if you do things like that and record yourself doing that, and that can just kind of.
Just so I know, because that's actually a really nice point for me. There's the environment, then there's my I call it like a positive wish mentality, but there's my sort of mentality within the environment where I process things.
Yes.
And then we can also take that, and I think for me the act of writing is like it's almost it's something I know I'm going to do. So it's a sort of like it's a further mentality to enable me to think, to enable me to engage. So. But that's part of the process.
Yes.
Because I know I'm going to make diary entries, I'm already much more actively alert to my environment as to a way of processing and finding these points. So that's all in there, including the performance. And then it's the object.
The product, the object. Yeah. Now, sometimes they say, well, I'm in the real world. Sometimes we have to produce something like this. I find the 1 and 2 very, very you know, the origins and then the act very exciting. The process, I really, really do. And there's often, you know, this onus on us as artists to produce something that's tangible, kind of thing. But I would say you don't need to rush towards that as yet. I think the screen printing idea is I really do like that. I really, really do. I think that will work very nicely for you. But there's also I don't know if you saw them at the London Art Book Fair, which is Ditto Press.
Right.
Who
I did go to the fair, but I didn't see it.
Bisographs,
right.
which basically is like a kind of a photocopy. That's why I'm saying I don't think you need to go high tech and do things. I think the thing is, I'll write this down. It's Ditto Press, and it will keep it keeps all the traces, everything, because it's almost like a kind of a photocopy, but you can do it on different backgrounds, different colours, and it looks similar to a screen print. But anything that's on your copy comes out, and it is wonderful, and they're risograph about it. Only you can make the decision if you sort of mean, and you will know instinctively, not objectively, and not through somebody else, what feels right. What's the right vehicle for your words to have that kind of agency for it to be translated in the world. So, you know, I have a friend, he's a graffiti artist, he does screen prints and things like that and so forth, but his work has a real currency through being on the wall, which is discovered as you go around and so forth as well. It has its, and they're quite complex graffiti art pictures, but it you know, it's kind of, that's just how it works. It's a little bit like Banksy. I've seen his work in books, and it just doesn't it doesn't have that strength or whatever. It's the vehicle for his work is in through undiscovered places that then gets discovered and so forth. And I think that's all you really, because I don't want to be too prescriptive for you.
Instinctively, I mean, I'm not instinctively in favour of galleries and presenting art. You know, it depends what the art is.
Don't knock it.
No, I just didn't mean to say that I don't have like an opinion on all art being a gallery. But I suppose, funny enough, I like using ordinary vernacular language, so I want my art to be able to be understood. But on the other hand, like, it is informed by some sort of art theory. So in some ways, and it's also because it is a personal quality for me, and I don't want to shove it in people's faces. But, you know, maybe the galleries or the silk screen print or onto whatever canvas, like aluminium. I usually use industrial stuff. Aluminium or perspex.
I think that's really exciting. What you actually put it on as well. It could work on canvas, but it could work on other things. It could work on something very slick, like, as you said, aluminium. It could work on wood. It could work on, depending on what surface you want to put it on. I think it could work on, you know, cotton. It could work on.
Because these are quite soft statements in some ways. So you might want a softer surface, perhaps.
Well, not necessarily. It could work on concrete. Do you know what I mean? You might just think, okay, I'm going to get 3 concrete blocks. You know, I'm just going to get, you know, there's the breeze blocks kind of thing. And then I'm just going to put, you know, either my words here, or I'm going to put my words here, here and here. You know, and maybe all the traces might come out, or they might not. I don't know. I'm not sure. But also, it's worth. I mean, this is maybe further down the line because it might cost a lot. But it's like, what would that look like on sort of vinyl lettering? Would it, if they could get it right to the end where they get the, you know, where it starts going off.
You get all that.
The fading as well. That would be, I think, quite.
Is that like like a sculptural print?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe just on vinyl and it's on somewhere. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's cool. Can I ask one other?
Of course, yeah.
What I was, because it's like one of my first intuitions is always like, Ed, you just you must let the intended goal slip. You know, just let it slip. You know, I've always sort of listened to that a bit, yeah. I've been thinking about this like as of yesterday, but you know, these so for me in the environment, this is very much me smiling at someone. That's what it was about. But my understanding, when if someone were to see this as a sort of a wordscape or landscape in the gallery, they'd have their own personal dialogue with that statement, and it would mean something completely different to them. And I think that's good. I think it's good that it's free enough to do that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not trying to prescribe. For them, it could just be be brave as you attempt to access your benefits, and they're turning you down.
It depends what context you want it put in.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that it depends what show it's in, if it's a show of your own work, whether it's with all of these kind of, do you know what I mean? Like if these were all single works, but they were words on canvas about that small. I think that would be really, really interesting. And then, like if they were just, rather than postcards, but they were these, but on canvas, painted onto canvas. Then it would then take on something slightly different as well.
Because
I think that would, and I think that would be interesting. And also you need to think about how the canvas is, and of course if they're white, but they're like those block canvases.
Yeah, with a big.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like that. So it really sticks out at the viewer. Because I do like these sides, I just don't like it in a postcard.
Yeah. No, I think the context thing was I didn't want us. I like this lack of context, but obviously there would be a sort of a thematic notion of sort of optimistic and generous, and that would be as contextual as you could frame it.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
It wouldn't be like it's about.
Yeah, I mean it depends how you want it to be seen. It's like you know the performance artist Tino Segal. He picks his place where he does his performances very carefully because it's always about the context. Now you may think it's not related but it is, and the people who carry his notion, his idea. So he did a performance, it was in the ICA, and he started off with a couple of kids were taking people through, and it's almost just like, okay, well, you would just blindly,
the context of the gallery space, or
absolutely, you just blindly, and also, if that happened in somewhere where it was like, I don't know, a commercial gallery, down a supermarket somewhere, whatever, you wouldn't have adults blindly following those children, if you saw what I mean. So the context for him is all important.
The context of the performative piece as
to
number
carry the work.
Three.
So even when this is done, it's also how you kind of want it to be seen. Often we don't get a choice, but we try and control it as much as possible. So when you do your when do you have your final show?
In the summer,
so it's soon.
I'm writing a 6,000 word critical, reflective response to this work. But my, and actually I'll probably include maybe a large scale silk screen as part of that decision.
Absolutely.
And see, that would just be the studio work for this term, and mainly the essay. And then it's just a matter of it depends. This could be in a different form my final work for the Julie show.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just depends. So,
it could be completely different. I'll come along to your show, and it could be something completely different. It could be digital. It could be silk screen. It could be you might have moved away from it altogether. So I understand what the tutor said is that the final goal does slip. Because things kind of change, and there's a kind of flux as you go along towards it, and you think, this is what works for what I'm doing.
No, well, thanks for all your comments.
You're welcome.
Actually, you know what?
It's exciting.
Can I ask one more question?
Of
Not
course.
about my art, actually.
Yeah.
My performative sort of the theoretical sort of background to my performative practice is pretty much informed by John Dewey, philosopher from 1934 America, who wrote something called Art as Experience. But he basically, his sort of thing is about the aesthetically felt experience as a sort of form of experiential knowledge, that it has more value because you felt it. And he would, that could imply to, just the tangibility of experiencing something in the world, but also like reading a great novel and being affected. But I was just wondering, because I know obviously you've got quite a strong performance development in your practice, and I feel like my theoretical position is like quite limited there. Have you got any, not tips, but would you go, oh, you should read, or... I mean, obviously my practice is different to yours, where everyone's practice is sort of different. But I'm happy where I am in my sort of like how it is I approach things. Yeah. But it's just a question. It's one of those sort of things where I just feel, I don't feel like I need to over theorise what I do. No. So maybe I should. Because actually, no, I don't think you do. I think when you go through institutions and you do your BA and your MA, you have to, because that's what it's there for, and that's what you're paying for. But actually, once you go out of that, you don't really need to. For some artists, there isn't that need. I think the thing is that for I've seen a lot of performances. And I've gone along to a lot, so you know kind of what works and what doesn't, or what you would do yourself. Yeah. I think performance is very scary. Yeah, a real, as in like a stage. Yeah, it's very scary. However long it is, and it could just be for a second, and you may not even be seen. Yeah. It could be just you in your studio and you're still doing a performance like. But you'd also include that type of form in your I can't remember his name. And he did a lot of... Bruce Nauman? I think it is Bruce Nauman. He did a lot of performances in the 70s. And some of it is hidden away, some of it is not. And I think the thing is that if you ever feel like, okay, I want to maybe experience more through performance, I'd say if you can, do more. If you see what I mean? Yeah. So all of these things where you are in front of these peer critiques, or you say, you know what, I'd like to do a performance, and just kind of, I don't know, in college or whatever, get a room and say, I'm going to do a performance next week. Even if 2 people show up, it doesn't matter. You still have to go through it, and your heart will just go. And then once you come out of it, you think, okay, there's a kind of, through that experience, there's a kind of understanding that goes on, but it's not until you actually kind of do it that you've got that. Yeah, so... No, that's cool. Everyone I've spoken to has been like, theory. Yeah, because I think the thing is that I spoke once to Marina Abramovich when she was doing something, it was years ago, she did it with a Frieze Art Fair, and there's no money in it at all. There's not much to document and sell off. It can be, there's pitfalls because it can be seen as entertainment. So people come along because it's just like, oh great, we've got a performance, let's all watch kind of thing. You know, when you're in a sort of a big show, it's like, okay, we've also got entertainment, which is the performance. So it's very difficult kind of seeing where you fit into that. And sometimes it's best to just... For some, it requires an audience. For others, it doesn't, or some fall in between. But I think with performance works, with everyone that I've done, even when they have been not in front of anybody. So I've done one where I stayed awake for 24 hours, and I had to take a picture out of this window every 24 hours, and then I made it into a book. And sometimes I missed the hour. There was a period of like 2 hours when I sort of fell asleep, and then it sort of went, to, I don't know, it was like 3:15 in the morning or something like that. It's a little bit like that, and but that still resonates in your head. That kind of the process itself. Yeah, because mine is durational, which is to do with that work, but.
even if it's short, even if it's an act, or even if it's in the street and nobody knows about it, or you stage something yourself, it will help you to define this.
Yeah.
You'll just come to know.
Yeah.
More now.
The performance development.
Yeah, I think so. I do. I think this will inform this, but you won't know until you've actually done it. Now, some tutors will over theorise and this and that and whatever, but I'm very much about trying things out and going through that process of you sort of. So you have that whole wealth of experience behind you, and then what you finally produce, you know it's right. If you've got the time to.
It's all that
it's
time.
very difficult. Yeah, it is very, very difficult.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for everything. Okay.